charging in general is that, since 2018, and as I've shared earlier, MCE has supported over 1,200 chargers. But what we're starting to learn, especially talking with folks like the Transportation Authority of Marin and others, is that chargers are actually repeatedly being vandalized or theft is happening for certain parts of the chargers that then make them inoperable. So it's great that we're investing the funding, right? But if a year or two later the chargers are inoperable, what are we doing? And again, what is our role as a CCA to support that? We're currently we only are supporting right on the rebate level for installation, and so just naming that as I think a challenge and a piece of discussion for this work. I can go on and on about this topic, right? Maintenance and operations, vandalism, theft, and also what we're exploring now are what are some more resilient options in terms of charging infrastructure that we can start to yeah, get behind and really support our customers in using those, from cordless options to so much more, right? So that we can minimize that. I actually want to be mindful of time, so I can save some of the other successes and challenges to later, and I just want to make sure that Melanie has an opportunity to present on her slides, which are next.
Thank you.
Thank you. And how much time do I have? Just curious. Ish.
Probably 8 minutes. And,
Okay. Okay.
We'll have Philip then present and then have a discussion that will be addressed to both you and NCP and Philip and Commissioner. Go ahead.
I can't hear you very well, but I think you said 8 minutes and there was some discussion.
Yeah, we're going to hold it. We're going to have the discussion after. We're going to have Philip present after MC finishes, and then we'll have the discussion jointly for the two.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. If we could move forward to my slides. So I'm Melanie Biesecker, and I am a Senior Customer Programs Manager at MCE. I've been with MCE since 2023, and I'm currently overseeing our EV Instant Rebates program and our MCE Sync program, which is a managed charging program. So I am going to talk about both of those today. And I know there was some interest in learning more about our dynamic rates, our ChargeWise work. I don't think we'll get to that today, but I am available and happy to join a future meeting to share more about that. But do want to share some information about the two programs that I'm working on right now. So our EV Instant, actually, let me start by saying MCE has offered an EV rebate since 2019. And from 2019 to the beginning of 2023, our EV rebate was a post-purchase rebate. So customers would, purchase their vehicle and then apply afterwards for a rebate. In May of 2023, we switched to an instant rebate model and are continuing to offer that. And I am excited to share that since we have moved to the instant rebate, so offering it at point of sale, we have tripled the number of rebates coming through our program, and that applies to customers living in Marin County as well. So this instant rebate was designed to address barriers for customers to get into electric vehicles. It offers up to $3,500 for a new or used lease or purchase on an electric vehicle. So currently it's $2,000 for a used EV or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, or $3,500 for new. It is stackable with other rebates, and we do see customers stacking Clean Cars for All, the PG&E rebate, MCE's rebate, and then the federal tax credit. So customers are saving quite a bit by stacking those incentives. Along with, so in order for customers to access this rebate, they would go to a participating dealership, and we currently have 83 participating dealerships. Most, if not all, of the dealerships in our service area. And they would go into the dealership, let them know that they're an MCE customer. The dealership can do a little check on their end and make sure that they're income qualified. And then the rebate gets applied at point of sale or lease. And then the dealership will submit for reimbursement later. So this has really made things much simpler for customers and for dealers. A customer no longer has to apply in advance and go through, you know, income verification that can be burdensome for customers with, you know, additional barriers. And yeah, so they can actually even be upsold if they were going to go into the dealership and buy a gas vehicle. We're able to upsell those to electric vehicles by offering this incentive. So to date, we have distributed 228 EV rebate or instant rebates to Marin County customers, totaling $669,000. And this year alone, we have already distributed 66 rebates. We can move to the next slide. MCE Sync is another opportunity for customers to not only simplify their EV experience, but also to save and to earn incentives. So MCE Sync is a smart charging app that allows us to manage customers charging at home to the least expensive and the cleanest times on the grid. And we do that with our partner EV Energy. And the customer just downloads the app, enters their vehicle and or charger information, and are able to opt in to let EV Energy manage that charging for them. And they can earn $50 for enrollment, and then up to $10 a month in credits for participating in low carbon events. We do call multiple, 3 to 5 low carbon events per month. So as long as a customer is participating in 2 or more low carbon events, they can earn that extra $10 a month. So not only are they saving on their energy bill by not charging during peak times or avoiding charging during peak times, but they're also able to earn $120 a year in incentives. I think, let's see, I think I got some stats that just came in this morning from our partner, and we currently have 239 participants in Marin County on our standard rewards tier, which is that $10 per month. And then we have an additional 49 participants that are part of our dynamic rewards pilot, which I would love to share more about at a later time. So we can talk about the ChargeWise work in more detail. But there is also 34 of those customers are located in a DAC. And I think that might be it for me.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yes.
I'll just leave this slide here because I want to be mindful of time and just say that these are some of the things that we're thinking about just in the future and kind of our direction forward. And so, as Melanie mentioned, we are would love to rejoin this conversation and to discuss more, I think, about Sync and also ChargeWise and the results that we're seeing there and how MCE may be participating in the future. And I think just like smart charging for me, alignment right now, that is our program is really strong on the residential side. And so what does that mean for our like commercial customers and agricultural customers as well? And how are we doing that? Thanks, Phil. And so seeing the success there, right, with incentivizing customers with participating in our MCE Sync program. And so how do we do that, right? Like at a multifamily property, perhaps as well, right? I think thinking through those considerations in the forward, multifamily always because of the reasons of the impact there. And I think further though is, you know, MCE and as well as other CCAs were really committed to the electrification in a addition to not only EV chargers, but what does this mean for other kind of electrification upgrades? And so often those are disjointed, right? We are doing energy efficiency upgrades, but not necessarily transportation electrification work at the same time. And so when we think about this, is there a way to synchronize and streamline that work? And then I'll just leave the bidirectional tariffs and VPP for a later time because I think that is a larger discussion that we don't necessarily have time for, and we definitely want to make sure that we yeah, just give that its justice. But um, our virtual power plant that MCE is leading on, we are, again, excited to present on that and like how EV charging and managed charging actually fits into that. And then also where MCE is on our own bidirectional tariff and just like where the industry space is, including PG&E and more. And so I think these are just considerations, things that MCE is thinking about, working on, determining how we're implementing and what we're not implementing on. But wanted to provide that. So thank you all for your time and allowing us to present on this piece. And I will be staying around for the discussion and Q&A part. And I think Melanie is hopping off around 11. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy and Melanie, for your presentations. We're going to move now to Philip, and making a little transition here. So Philip Kobernik is the Associate Director of Energy Programs at Peninsula Clean Energy. And Peninsula Clean Energy is another consumer choice aggregator, or CCA. I didn't mention that CCAs buy and power and sell it to customers, while PG&E provide the poles and wires for electricity. So the distribution and transmission is PG&E's bailiwick. Peninsula Clean Energy also is big. It has about 450 million in operating revenues. It had a substantial surplus and with 17.5 million set aside for community programs in the past year. And a year ago, Peter Levitt from Peninsula Clean Energy talked about their distributed energy resources programs. Philip developed programs and projects for deep decarbonization with a focus on the transportation sector. He's developed new vehicle electrification programs and strategies, and he's leading PCE EV charging strategy and incentive program and EV load shaping programs. And so he'll talk about the EV adoption programs, PCE's EV Ready program, and how the EV Ready program can provide grid services. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Philip.
Hey, thanks so much for having me here. Let me go ahead and share this.
Great.
All right. Are we seeing the notes of the slides?
Both.
All right. How about this? Better?
So what? Yeah.
There you got it.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. I'm going to be chatting about our EV Ready program. I have a couple of main takeaways here. So I'm going to get into how Peninsula Clean Energy's main EV charging infrastructure program is working, like how we set up our program and what it's doing. And then I'm going to be focusing a lot on a couple of our key strategies, but the main one being how we apply what's called right sizing to our program, and how now that is getting some significant results, including some of the largest multifamily EV charging projects in the country that we're pretty excited about. Let me dive in here. Okay, so before I dive in, just high level, and then we'll drill in. So our programs team kind of has a few theories of how we influence change. There's, of course, the most obvious one is us influencing individual decisions with rebates, technical assistance, things like that. That's a big part of what we're providing to property owners in EV charging. We drive innovation through pilots, through sharing data with colleagues and peers, sharing technical resources. We just updated our design guidelines for EV charging, for instance, and we're promoting that shortly. Shape policy, including huge wins at the state green building level for every new apartment building that's being constructed across the entire state now has to have EV charging for every single resident. That was remarkably different landscape just 3 or 4 years ago. So influencing state policy is a huge way that we grow our overall influence here, in addition to like the nuts and bolts of actual programs. I wanted to kind of give a sense of where we're focusing generally in terms of our program's influence. So most of this is very similar to Marin, I'm sure, that your kind of greenhouse gas landscape looks a lot like this. Transportation leading the charge here, and then buildings coming in after that with sort of some ancillary sources here. Overall, PCE focuses on the areas that we can be best positioned to influence. And so for us, that means transportation, mostly for light duty, personally owned stuff. We also do a little bit with government fleets, and then we're kind of ignoring things like drayage fleets and fleets that are not based in San Mateo County but drive through the 101 corridor, for instance, mostly heavy duty stuff. And then for buildings, we're mostly focusing on single family home electrification, which is the vast majority of our buildings in San Mateo County, being single family homes. And then things that we're ignoring right now are like the hard stuff, industrial, restaurants. Our program will also evolve to multifamily eventually, but that's that we're ignoring the stuff that does not need to be focused on right now. So like the stuff that's too challenging, like restaurants and other type of industrial uses. But that's the majority of emissions is where we're immediately focusing our attention on. Okay, and this is our programs portfolio. PC programs, there's sort of three legs of a stool. We're providing programs for buildings. Our biggest program now is on single family home residential electrification, although we're also doing some stuff in the commercial space with technical assistance. We'll be doing more of that in the future. Transportation, which we have a number of programs on. I'll be focusing on EV charging, which is our biggest part of that, really. Transportation is EV charging and a bunch of other little things, really. And then where we're going with DERs and our virtual power plant program, we are launching, we're doing like 250 solar and storage homes through STRIP funding that was just opened a couple weeks ago. That's a big part of that. And then launching our distributed energy resources platform is going to be a big focus this year too. Okay. And then since we started, we've put in over 60 million into all these types of programs over time. Oh, I forgot to mention what we're doing with government solar on the distributed resources side is another big thing too. We set up PPAs with that, so that's money going out and then money coming back in through our PPA arrangements with government solar. And then a number of other things that we're doing on the policy side that doesn't strictly fit into here, like what we're doing with REACH codes, helping cities advance green building codes, innovation, all that. Okay, so I err on the side of caution for folks on EV charging, because we're gonna get a little technical here. And so I do want to provide just a bit of a crash course. If you have not thought about EV charging for a while, I want to kind of get into the different types of charging levels here. So we focus on lots of different types of charging. It's definitely not a one size fits all approach. And let me get into that with a metaphor. So here are the different types of EV charging that we look at. And the way I kind of pair it is a level one charging, kind of like a kitchen. Most of what you do at home can be done with a kitchen faucet, or sorry, a kitchen sink or like a faucet, right? And so that's good utility use, like everyday use. Kitchen faucets are not very expensive. And then when you're moving up in power, you move up to a low power level 2 outlet. This is a bit higher than a level 1 power output, around 3.3 kilowatts. That's kind of like a garden hose. You know, you're getting more power. And then to stretch the analogy here, maybe you had to run a new pipe to bring water to your gardener. So a little bit more cost, a little bit more power. Level two charging, the ubiquitous charging you see in public spaces, that's like a fire hose. So a lot more power coming out of that, a lot more throughput, a lot more cost. You know, you have to you can't get a fire hose everywhere. You have to put money to put fire hoses and fire hydrants out there. And then level three charging or fast charging, direct current fast charging, DCAFC, that's like a waterfall. That is very high costs, very high power. So we focus a lot on level one, and what I mean by this is like standard level one outlets, either 520 or 620 actually. Different types of, oh, I think I actually even have that here. Yeah, there you go. It's like 620 outlets. Most cars in California come with a portable cord set. It's actually law that new cars come with a portable cord set. If you're buying a used car, it should have it in there, but of course it could have disappeared. But these are inexpensive portable cord sets that most people already have. If you don't, it's not that hard to get. And so we focus a lot on putting in outlets because it's cheaper and we can do more with less. Okay, and when it comes to EV charging in apartments, it is really critical that we get this right. So the state has significantly underperformed in terms of getting charging into multifamily. I'll get to that in a second. Um, but it's really important. Like if we don't put charging here, we're not going to get an equitable, inclusive transition to EVs. And people need charging at home. So this is a big, big part of the puzzle we need to get right. And every time I hear like chicken egg questions, I go a little bananas because to me it's pretty obvious. You got to put in chargers before EVs. You got to put lots of them in. Like people need to see that there's charging at their parking space so that they go buy an EV. And so that's what we're trying to do. So the overall approach through state programs is to put a 7,000 or 7,000, yeah, 7 kilowatt or 7,000 watt charger in shared parking. That is what the state, through its funding programs, requires people to do, and it's generally not working. So like something like 400 million invested in the Cal EVIT program, they've produced less than 2,000 chargers at apartments across the whole state, and we've done almost 2,000 chargers just in San Mateo County. So we're doing it a different way. And so the last thing I'll say here is that on the high level is that EV charging, we're just way, way off target. It's great that we've done over, a million, sorry, we've done over 150,000 chargers now across the state. We should feel really good about that. A lot of people are working really hard to put charging into the community, and we should feel really happy about the progress we've made, but we're way off target. So how we got to where we are today is not going to be how we get to 2030. We have to switch gears, or we have to kind of change course because at the current pace, we're going to be way short. We've only done 10% of the amount of charging that we need to install in the next 5 years. Basically, we need to put as much chargers have been installed in California history. We need to exceed that every single year for the next 5 years. And clearly we're not on pace to do that. So here's our program. We're helping to promote EV charging for the community. We do that through free technical assistance, through financial incentives. We also have contractor referrals. I should have updated my numbers. We just got 200 more chargers I got installed yesterday. So we're just short of 2,000 chargers that have been installed. About 3/4 of them actually have been at multifamily. So ours is primarily a multifamily program, with some chargers going to other locations. And we have another 4,000 in progress. So we have a lot that are coming. And then this photo on the right is from an HOA in Millbrae. They installed 144 level one outlets. That's one for every single parking space in this HOA. And they did it at no out-of-pocket cost through our rebates. So they put 144 outlets in, zero out of cost for the HOA, and they're done forever. They're done. So people can start buying EVs and they never have to come back to contractor never has to come back to this property again. Which is great. And so you can see the whole bank of Go Power EVs in this case on these walls. It's really hard to take good pictures of parking garages, but I'll put as many as I can. Okay, I'll breeze through these real quick, but these are our incentives. We have $2,000 for an outlet, similar to MCE 4,500 for level two. We really try to drive people to these outlets. Level two is a premium charging product, so we make people pay for some of it. That we make there's a cost share, but for outlets there is not. Okay, some of our key strategies. One is to right size. What that means is you focus on what people actually need, not just what is like nice to have. And then you use what we have first. So like, use the electrical capacity that you have and only bring in your new service when you have to. So that means for us, it's a lot of level one charging. So level one, a dedicated 20 amp circuit provides just short of 2 kilowatts of capacity. And that's about 60 miles of recharge range overnight. This is how I charge at home. This is actually how about a third of EV drivers already charge at home. These are early adopters too in single family homes, like the, techie folks that have Apple Watches that you would think would be paying thousands of dollars for the latest, gadget for EV charging. A third of them use level one charging at home. So it's pretty common. And it's double the average daily distance. Why we do it is because again, it meets daily needs by double, and it costs about $2,500 to install one of these things, as opposed to $13,000 to install a level two charger. That's the statewide average in the state program. So you can do like 6 of these for the price of one level two charger. That's why we like doing this so much. Helps avoid service upgrades. We have multiple properties now, multiple apartment properties. I've installed over 100 of them at a time. Um, and hey, the nice thing about this is it's guaranteed load shaping because it's low power, slow and low over several hours, kind of like a barbecue. So you don't need to enroll people into a smart charging program, or you don't need to have fancy power management features on this, which typically come with costs. It already is doing that. It's already better for a high renewables grid by reducing peaks. So we love level one. So like I mentioned before, it meets most people's needs, already in use, great cost comparison compared to level twos. Here's more level one projects that we've done in our program. This is Orange Outlet, which has done several projects. This site over here put in 80% of assigned parking, got an outlet at no service upgrade. A property here in Brisbane in our territory. Huge. 80% of assigned parking, no service upgrade. And here's some more of these products again. This is Go Power EV. This is Orange. We also work with Pando, which does power managed level two outlets, and Plugzio, which is kind of a similar product. There's a few folks in this space that are doing this. Okay, another big strategy that we do in our program is we provide free technical assistance. So apartment owners or HOAs come to us typically saying, hey, we're getting requests for EV charging. Help us put in a charge point charger in our shared parking. That's typically how these conversations start. And we'll show them what that project looks like. We give them 3 different designs. The first is we'll show you a design that exactly what you asked for. And then we'll give them designs that optimize on their initial request. So we'll show them what one charge point charger in a shared parking space looks like, and then we'll show them what 16 level one outlets in assigned parking looks like, and it's much lower cost and much easier for them to do and better EV driver experience. And so we get a lot of people to move to that option. So we're kind of upselling to get more chargers in these properties through this free education that we're doing and capacity analysis that we're doing. All that we give to them as part of this process. And as a result, on average, multifamily properties in our program are tripling the EV project size that they do after coming into technical assistance. So on average, they're coming in asking for 3 or 4, and they're leaving with 9 or 12 that they actually end up installing. And here's some more orange chargers at a multifamily property. Okay, this is an example of what we give them in our technical assistance. We give them a whole evaluation, cost estimate, some, preliminary design so they can see what they're looking for. And the cost is important because they can, when they're going out and getting contractor quotes, they can kind of compare it to our cost analysis to see if the contractors are getting it right. Okay, last thing I'm going to end on is pricing. So pricing for drivers in this case. So charging fees are pretty expensive, and we're looking to deal with that through project design. If you live in a single family home, it is cheaper to have an EV than to pay for gas. That is definitely true. Even with high electricity prices, that is still definitely true. You are paying less in electricity than gas. And then forget even oil change. Like let's just focus on fuel. If you are in an apartment that is using a third-party charger, so a charger that you're using a credit card or something like that to pay for, where the property manager sets the price to use, we're basically seeing it as a wash. The price you pay for electricity is more or less equivalent to what you pay for gas. This is just kind of what we're seeing in the marketplace. Properties can charge whatever they want to use the chargers. There's no regulation on the actual price. I mean, there's a little bit, you have to charge by kilowatt hour. There's some rules in place, but you can set the fee to whatever you want. It's basically what the market decides. And so that's a problem that we're working on. We're working on that through direct wiring. So this is mostly for HOAs and for small rental apartments, basically properties where parking is never reassigned. Like if you have a property where parking is always tied to a unit, we're looking at doing more direct wiring. So this is a typical property where you've got a bunch of meters, right? These are for the residential units. This is for the tenants. So what you use to turn your TV on, run your microwave, all that stuff, paid for by the residents, paid by the tenants, all that stuff goes through these meters. And then this is the house meter, which is like the common meter for common area lights, gym, whatever else is at the property. Normally we install chargers on this meter, right? Because it's easier. But what we're looking to do is move to install more of them on these meters through something like this, which is a load balancer. What that means is when we install an outlet or a charger at these assigned parking spaces, it's as if that outlet was in your condo, as if you were plugging in your dryer or something like that in your condo. So the charging load will just show up on your regular PG&E bill. You don't have to pay for a third-party payment system. So that's a really good, this direct wiring is really good when you have assigned parking like HOAs. You're never gonna reassign it. Because if you do reassign it, someone's gonna be basically the equivalent of plugging into your house. You don't want that. Now for rental apartments where parking is frequently reassigned, we're working on a virtual version of this physical hardware-based solution, which is called virtual submetering. We just did an innovation grant on that. That was awarded a couple weeks ago. Coming soon. We got to develop all these. It would be the first product that ever did this, really. So it needs to be developed. So we're working on that. Okay, and happy to take questions.
Thanks so much, Philip. And thanks again, Joy and Melanie. So we're going to have questions that will be directed to both the folks from MCE and folks from Peninsula Clean Energy. I'm going to ask question of my own, and then I would like to get to question from council member from Larkspur. So the question I have is, you've got these 5,000 chargers in San Mateo, 70,000 that are needed. It's a very striking graphic.
Yep.
And it's important in order to accelerate EV adoption to have a lot more chargers quickly.
Yes.
So what is the sort of very general game plan for scaling?
Wow, that is $1 million question. So most of the charging, our plan, and what we expect to happen is that most of the charging between now and 2030, especially in multifamily, will be the result of building codes. So new apartments that get built that add EV charging when they are constructed. That is what we expect most of the EV charging to be built as a result of these codes. So basically, building codes is the most impactful thing that we've ever done as an organization. And we expect most charging to come from there. The more housing we build with parking, the better, because it will produce more charging. And if we enter into an environment where construction slows, then we'll be further behind schedule. So that is a big part of that strategy. Adding in EV charging, like to retrofit it at existing properties, is the hardest. And that is where our program is focused because it's so hard and will not happen on its own, we don't believe. But building codes are going to be the thing that saves us if we can get there. So we think most charging will occur through there. Now we're still going to come up short, we believe. So we need to put more effort into retrofit projects or figure out ways to do more of this. Like if we're working with the state, for instance, to unlock more funding for what we think are more impactful strategies for multifamily, because right now the state has not been successful at adding EV charging into multifamily. So we're working on bringing more resources through that, but that's those are some of the main strategies.
So, Joy, Melanie, what are the plans for scaling EV charging at MCE?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for us, very similar. Our numbers for multifamily housing are very marginal, if not small, and that's something that we're working on increasing. So I think that's number one. Number two, we think that by increasing our rebate level, we're hoping to see some more increase there with scalability. But three, something that I'm doing this year and hopefully we can implement in the next fiscal year is just figuring out the like and what, right? So not only is it scalability, I think for me it's also like what are we doing about the chargers that are in place and like just not working or inoperable, right? And so really thinking about what's our role there, and perhaps adjusting our program to fit to that. And so, yeah, I think growing our sync program through our virtual PowerPoint is one option. Thinking through if MCE could offer potentially a direct install model. And this is where, not only are we providing technical assistance, but we are leading on the installation of chargers. I think that's another thing. And then I think just as Philip alluded to, general just like advocacy on the state and local level, because there are also things that are hindering the scalability and the progress, from permitting timelines and what it takes to install chargers to also actually getting power to the chargers for some of our customers through PG&E, that internalization piece, right? And so for us, just trying to find what the cracks are and how we can address some of those cracks in the system in order to scale.
Great. And Councilmember Sarah Margulies asks in chat, if San Mateo County has 5,000 of the 70,000 charging stations needed, do we know what Marin County has? And I depend to that, what the statistics are for MCE's footprint.
Yeah, I mean, I reported on the total chargers to date, and sorry, Philip, I had to step away when you were presenting on that slide, and so I want to go back, and I also messaged Councilmember Sarah in the chat that I'll get back to that, but we have over 1,200 ports and roughly about another 1,000 ports in our pipeline, and so matching that with what's needed on the county level to meet the state goals. I think Philip was the stat that you were reporting on. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I get that so I can report back.
Yeah, the 70,000 number for San Mateo County is based on a 2035 decarb analysis that we did last year. Basically, our
Mm-hmm.
board asked us, what would it take to get to 100% decarb by 2035? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
would it take to retire the entire gas fleet
Mm-hmm.
in the next decade? And so as part of that exercise, we looked at, well, how many chargers do we think we need to support an all-electric fleet, and that number was somewhere around 70,000 chargers, a blend of public charging, I think around 5,000 of those being public fast chargers, and then at-home charging for multifamily. We assume single family are all taken care of in that
Right.
analysis.
Right.
That's where that number came from.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have that analysis currently right now, and so it is something I've just noted. We have not done that analysis for what it would be for Marin County, but perhaps there are other agencies that has. I can follow up with the Transportation Authority of Marin, and some of our other partners to see if we know that number, and then yeah, indicate how much MCE is contributing to that. So that's more of a follow-up on our end.
So, thanks, Joy.
Mhm.
Ken Strong has a question.
Yeah, Philip, in some of the multifamilies that projects you've already installed, you used orange plugs. The orange plug is my recollection is orange plug is something which allows an individual to pay straight sort of on an app based on the plug. Is that correct? And
That's
is that how you
exactly
deal
right.
with it when you don't meter it?
That's exactly right. So everybody in our program, nobody has installed like non-smart or dumb level one. Everyone has installed networked smart level one charging. Um, Orange has an integrated credit card payment system. Exactly like you're describing. For direct wiring, you technically don't need a smart outlet like this because it's going to show up on your bill. But for virtual submetering, you do. So that's what we're working with Orange to develop. So instead of using a credit card, it basically just sort of reassigns the charging load to your home meter instead of charging a credit card. So that's what we're working on with them. Also, you need the networking to do that.
And you need something like that because the load in a multifamily dwelling of everybody, even level one charging, would be significant enough that the landlord doesn't want to absorb that probably.
Exactly. And we install it on the common meter, right? The one that's paying for the lights and stuff in the garage. That's almost always how we install it typically. So yes, exactly. They don't want to, no one wants to give away free juice.
Thanks.
So PB Golden, Corte Madera has her hand raised. PB?
Yeah, thank you. I had a question for Philip. Thank you for the presentation. Really interesting to hear about PCE's programs. I was wondering what kind of outreach you do to multifamily properties, if at all, or if you're just relying on the property owners coming to you. And then separately, if you could talk a little more about how those conversations go with property owners when you're trying to get them to move from the shared parking model to a charger in every space model, and what are the sort of most convincing arguments that help people make that switch?
So thank you, Phoebe. We do outreach. And when we started, like we kind of avoided massive outreach the first couple years of the program, then we started significantly ramping up outreach last year. Our impression was that we've already engaged the low-hanging fruit in terms of properties that were like willing to do this. We've done basically about 300 project designs. And so the folks that were most eager, we've already engaged. So now we're moving up the tree from the low-hanging fruit to the middle-hanging fruit. We've done a lot of outreach. We've done direct engagement through mailers. So we bought we have everybody's mailing address because of course they're our customers, but we bought like the CoStar database to try to target the actual owners of the properties who we don't necessarily know from their utility information. So we've targeted them. Some of that was okay. Most of that didn't really do anything. The most successful thing we've been doing is we've been targeting those owners, but the ask isn't enroll in the program. The ask is we're going to host a free 30-minute webinar about everything you should know about EV charging as an apartment owner, just like an info webinar. And we typically been getting like 50 to 100 people at those webinars. We do them pretty regularly now. And then a lot of those folks end up converting to enroll in the program later. So we're trying to get people like lower bars of entry. Um, and so these like free, what you should know as a property manager type stuff seems to be working pretty well. So we're going to keep doing that pretty regularly. Your second, how do we convert people? So we give them, we pay for multiple site designs per project through our design partners. And we're sure, we make sure that the first thing that they see is what they asked for. So they're feeling heard, right? I want 2 chargers. That's what I think I want. And they gave that to me. And then that makes it a lot easier for to be like, here's what we think that'll cost. You may want to consider some of these other options. And I think being able to respond to their request opens the door for them to see, oh, and they're doing more than what I asked for, and that's worth me considering. And so really, when I said we give 3 designs, you can think of it as like good, better, best, um, in terms of the 3 sets we give them, and it actually splits evenly into what customers end up accepting, about a third in each camp. So 2/3 of people are pursuing more charging than they initially requested, with a third significantly more. So that does seem to be the way that does seem to be working. That's strategy.
That's awesome. Thank you.
And I should have mentioned that PP is Climate Action and Adaptation Coordinator for the town of Corte Madera. So Dan Seganen, your question.
Hi, this question is for Joy. Thanks for the presentation, Joy. I was curious what your reaction is to the level 1 charging the PCE is doing, because it seems like it has a lot of advantages, fraction of the cost. You can therefore deliver much more access, and it could be a better fit for DAC communities. You certainly wouldn't have the theft issue and so on, and it just generally would increase access. So I was wondering, what MCE's plans are in this area. Is this an area you're considering going into and expanding level 1 charging? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I think, yes, we are definitely and have been, even prior to me starting at MCE, following PCE's journey on this and their learnings. I think it's an option. It is a part of the program evaluation and kind of next steps that we're considering. As I mentioned, I would say 80% of our rebates have been claimed by L2 and in or excuse me, L2 ports. And, our TA and our charging evaluation reports are structured very similar, where we're given what the customer wants and also um, focusing on alternative options. I do think that we could push L1 a bit more. We have just been focused on kind of customer needs and what they're indicating, but in order to meet the goals, I think we are going to have to um, in your words, Philip, upsell a bit more on L1, right? And so it's not, we're not in disagreement. I think it's just it hasn't been a part of our strategy specifically to date. Like we still have a rebate, we offer it, but we just haven't seen that adoption. So it takes more resources on our end to do that. So I would say to stay tuned, as I'm hoping to do several program changes within the next fiscal year, if approved by our board and if possible.
And just to
Thank you.
briefly add on to Joy's comment here, we also provide level 2 incentives at the same rate
Oh,
that
Philip, I
MCE
think,
provides. Some folks are just
So,
no talking out that they want.
Philip, could you
Oh,
just
sorry.
repeat that, because it didn't come through, at least here in the room.
your connection, we heard you,
Oh, can you hear me
all
now?
are also, yeah, perfect.
Sorry, I just real quick to add on to Joy's comments there. We to emphasize, we also provide level 2 rebates. There's some folks they want level 2, and that's all they want, and there's no talking them out of that. And we're fine. We're fine providing level 2 designs and incentives. If that's what they want, we just think of it as a more, it's a more premium option, so we just make them pay for it a little bit, as opposed to level 1 outlets, which we will fund up to 100%.
Yeah, and I think another piece of this conversation and puzzle is that like we know that at-home charging is needed, but also um Yeah, understanding the other types of chargers and charger types from L1 to L3 DC fast charging that are also being co-located in communities. And so in communities where potentially at home charging in a multifamily housing is the only option, right? And they're not HOAs, like what is the best service there, right? And I'm definitely in agreement. I think when I first started in this space, Philip, I was always like starting presentations, well, what's first, chicken or egg? And now it's just like charging, right? And charging of all types. But, I think really thinking through the charging landscape across communities and communities where we are going to see that, sure, we might be able to get chargers in multifamily housing, but we might not see any chargers for the next 5 miles, right? The next 10 miles, right? Or charging isn't going to be available at workplaces and things like that. And so if at-home charging is the only option, what are we doing there to ensure that people yeah, just like have access to what works for them. And so that's another way to think about it. I think L1 is great too, but also there are communities where if the only charging is the L1 at home, like we need to build up the charging landscape across in communities throughout, right? Like I think that's why the regional planning, corridor planning, planning across CCAs is all really important. The work that you all are doing is really important too. So I just want to add that to it. I think L1 is great, but also we have to think about what's available and what will be available. So
So we're going to have to draw this part of the program to a close soon. Bill Cole in the room has a question, so if you could ask that quickly. And,
Yeah.
and Jean on Zoom has a question, and Jean, you'll follow Bill.
Yes. Hi. My question has to do with,
Bill?
my question has to do with the loss of rebates and tax incentives at the federal level. What does that do for your programs? Does it mean that you can continue to provide rebates on your own? There are other sources of funding. And how important is it for the programs that you're undertaking to be able to continue the rebates?
I'll just jump in real quick, especially as it relates to our electric vehicle rebates. I think with the administration change, I instantly was like, do we need to do contingency planning, right? Like, do we need to beef up our rebates, right? That was kind of just like initial thoughts. I think it can further sets the foundation and the need for why these programs should exist, right? And like why we continue to fund our EV charging and our EV rebate programs. And so I think with the changes, I'm not as optimistic, right, on that, like more funding is going to be cut. And so for us, it makes me just want to double down, right? It makes me want to double down on like what we're offering to our customers and really just like that advocacy piece, the policy piece, right? On like why what we're doing is useful. So sorry, Philip, I know you have to hop. So
Just yeah, it's definitely gonna impact our used EV. We structured our used EV rebate to be completely stackable with the federal one, so we'll have to rethink that. That's annoying. It will definitely it'll probably do a near-term rush on EVs, maybe depending on how the bill works. Fine in the short term, bad in the long term. It won't affect our EV charging program at all. It's completely self-funded, and our properties, for the most part, aren't taking advantage of any tax credits for EV charging because that's zip code based, and hardly any of our zip codes are eligible. So no impact on EV charging, maybe some ancillary impacts on EV adoption that we'll have to figure out what to deal with.
By the way, I just put in chat a thank you to Philip, who has to leave us, and went to everybody. But thank you so much, Philip, for your presentation, and it was really it really set up a very good discussion.
Jean, do you have a last question?
Yes, it's for Philip. My question is, what are your top 3 reasons you found that shared level 2 parking is not working. We're in a multifamily community and we're about to put in level 2. And I would love to know your top 3 reasons. Thank you.
Love this is gonna be my last question. I'd love to end on this one. This is a good one. All right. The reason why shared level 2 charging generally sucks for apartments, one, it requires ADA upgrades. So you have to put in share the first space has to be van accessible ADA parking space in addition to what you already have. And so when properties see that they're going to have to lose parking as a result of this strategy, most people are already at a deficit for parking. And they're like, no way am I going to lose more parking voluntarily to put an EV charger because I'm not being required to do this. So that is the number one deal killer. Two is that it's pretty expensive. Again, $13,000 per port on average to put in a level 2 charger. Depending on your site, you could be less, you could be more. And then the third is that properties don't think about this when they install, but in general, it's a pretty crummy experience for drivers. Like once you have done them at one property and you're looking at others and you're learning from what you've done in the past, you're forcing EV drivers to come out in the middle of the night in their pajamas to move their car and then coordinate with musical chairs with other EV drivers. And that's just a generally crummy experience. All right. Thank you all. I need to hop.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. That was great.
Dan, you have a very quick question?
Take his hand
I
out.
guess not. Okay, let's move on.
No, I'm sorry, Bob. I have just a quick comment for Joy. It'll be quick.
Yeah.
Joy, regarding MCE Sync, as you know, the greenhouse gas reduction effect of that program is much greater if the charging occurs during the day than at night, where at night the greenhouse gas emissions from the grid are still pretty high. There's a lot of dirty energy on the grid at night. In the daytime, of course, there is the 20,000 megawatts of solar available in California, makes it quite clean. So I guess the comment is, I hope we're doing all we can to maximize charging during the day as opposed to at night. And if you have any comment, if there's time, I'd like to hear it. But if not, I just wanted to leave that with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed to charge, our managed charging program is designed to charge vehicles that at times that is optimal to the grid. And so really minimizing that 4 to 9. MCE has a whole campaign around why we shouldn't be, using high electricity or using things that cost a lot or will cost a lot to the grid rather from 4 to 9. So yes, we are really optimizing and incentivizing, and Melanie can speak more about the charge wise and our kind of this flexible pricing model or time of use model, right? Where we want customers to charge during those like off-peak hours. And so the answer to that is like in agreement to that comment, and understanding what that means at night, especially when everyone is at home, right? Between that like 4 to 6, 4 to 7. And so incentivizing folks to, I think one way that we're shifting this is that incentivizing people to charge during those off-peak hours, which is at times.
I think my comment, I wasn't clear. That 9 p.m. to call it 6, 7 a.m. is actually still very carbon intensive for charging. So what we really want to do to the extent possible is shift people to charging during the daytime when the sun is up.
Yeah.
It's not just about avoiding the 4 to 9 peak. It's about avoiding charging at night and getting them to charge during the day. And that's what I hope that algorithm is doing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think I don't want to, sorry, I could go into the numbers, lower peak price from 12 to, right. But Melanie's going to present on that a bit more and what we're seeing.
Wonderful.
Great,
well,
thanks.
Thanks so much, Joy, for your presentation as well. And we'll now move on to our third and final speaker. Annika Osborne, who's the Director of Programs and Community Development at Cool the Earth, is going to talk more about vehicles. She serves as the chair of the Sustainable San Rafael Board as well. She earned an MA in Applied Linguistics from Middlebury Institute of International Studies. Annika, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks so much, Ken.
Wonderful.
Um, so happy to be here to share some highlights about EVs, incentives, and charging. Apologies for not sharing my screen. I tested positive for COVID this morning, but I didn't
Oh,
miss this presentation, so here I am. I'll do my best. So I'm Annika Osborne with Cool the Earth. We are an environmental nonprofit with a mission to reduce carbon emissions and air pollution. And while we are big fans of walking, biking, public transit, and carpooling, preferably in an EV or on an e-bike, with our Ride and Drive Clean initiative, we work to advance the adoption of electric vehicles, both EVs and e-bikes, in a fair and just marketplace. Here are the topics I'll cover in my presentation, and we will start off with some benefits of EVs. So there are many benefits to driving electric. In California, our passenger vehicles are the single largest source of GHG emissions, often representing 50% of our individual carbon footprint. So when we switch from a gas car to an EV and plug into clean energy like we can do here in the Bay Area, we are taking impactful climate action by reducing carbon emissions and air pollution, both which disproportionately impact our priority communities. And while driving electric is better for the planet, there's no sacrifice when we go electric. EV drivers save time, money, and enjoy an improved driving experience. And I did want to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Ken was saying earlier. You know, in Marin County is one of the counties leading in EV sales, with over 40% of new car sales being EVs, which is amazing, but it is not an equitable transition. Most EV drivers in Marin County live in single-family homes and can charge at home, which is easy. Just reiterating what Joy and Philip, reported also, residents in apartments and condos have pretty much been left behind, especially our low-income residents. So we need to make it easier for everyone to purchase and charge EVs. So I'm going to dive in and start talking a bit about some EV models. Yeah, so there are now over 100 all-electric EV
wait a
models.
minute, Annika?
Yes.
Annika, if you want me to forward your slides, you
Sorry,
have to tell me
forward,
when to.
please. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there are over 100 all-electric EV models now. When I started doing these presentations about 6 years ago, there were 11 models, so we've come a long way in just a few years. There are close to 50 plug-in hybrid models, and the starting price for new EVs is $28,140, and for used EVs, around $18,000. And I'm talking about used EVs that have a decent amount of range, like 200 plus. You can get some cheaper used EVs for 10,000 or so, but with very low range. Despite some challenges at the federal level, like we've all been, hearing about recently here, automakers are really rising to this moment with new electric vehicle models that prioritize affordability, extended range, and consumer confidence, which will hopefully expand the market and accelerate the momentum across the US. So with so many EVs and plug-in hybrids available, there's truly an EV for every lifestyle and budget. Most fully electric EVs offer 200 to 300 miles of range. Some will go even farther on one charge. That means you can go from San Francisco to Tahoe with just a 15-minute charging break. And in some EVs, you don't even have to stop to charge at all, which is really great at this point. So the question is, which EV is the right one for you? Next. So I've handpicked just a few popular and good value EVs to showcase in this presentation. The prices listed are the base MSRP, and I have starred the ones that currently qualify for the federal clean vehicle credit, hopefully for the next 6 months or so at least, which will provide even more savings, $7,500 off MSRP when you purchase or finance an EV. Before I get started, I'd like to just note that the average price of a new car in the United States today is $48,000. So there are many EV models that come in below this price. The Nissan Leaf has been around since 2011, and many people are still driving their early model Leafs, now with a much limited range, but enough for running errands around town. The 2026 Nissan Leaf was just announced. It's coming out. It's going to be revamped with over 300 miles of range and a new kind of body style. It's going to be looking really sleek. So that's really exciting. And while the US market is trending toward bigger cars, some people are looking for smaller options. So that's great. The Kona and Kia Niro are small crossover EVs built on the same platform and have been popular since they came out in 2019. They have both been updated in the past model year or two. Chevy has been mixing it up with some new EV models, including the Chevy Equinox, which has a very reasonable MSRP, and in addition qualifies for the federal tax credit for $7,500. The ID4 is the first from the Volkswagen ID brand. There are more coming. People love their Mustang Mach-E's, and you may have noticed that the Chevy Bolt is missing. They took a break in production in 2024 and 2025 to revamp this very affordable and easy to park model. We're hearing that they'll be coming back in 2026 with the Chevy Bolt EUV, which is a tiny bit bigger, new and improved with faster charging. There are many Bolts available on the used market at great prices, though, I wanted to note. All right. The Kias and the Hyundais on this slide all have vehicle to load capabilities, so you can power a refrigerator or other large appliances with the energy in the car battery for a week or so if there's a power outage. So that's a nice bonus. So if you have one of these EVs, there's no need for a gas generator at home, and they're great for zero emissions camping. In addition, these EVs offer very fast charging. So on a road trip, they can charge from 20 to 80% in just 18 minutes, just enough time to stretch your legs. Next. I had to include this very nostalgic Volkswagen ID Buzz, which is now available in a variety of fun colors. Next. I just have one slide featuring some popular plug-in hybrids. Since most EVs now have such a long range and EV charging stations have expanded so much, we recommend going all electric, but plug-in hybrids work, for some people, work better for certain people in some situations. We like the ones that have lots of electric range, like the Toyotas, 42, 44 electric miles. I know some people who drive plug-in hybrids who go to the gas station once or twice a year, and that's fantastic. You just got to remember to plug them in as much as you can. So the next few slides will give you an idea of pricing on some popular pre-owned EVs, just to get a little comparison. And next slide, important to note that unlike new car prices, used car prices vary tremendously based on the condition and mileage, as well as the year and the trim. So there will always be vehicles below and above these kind of price ranges. And it's a bigger range for sure. PHEVs have recently become, more popular in the used market, especially for people who don't have charging at home, but they are often priced above their all electric or all gas equivalents. Okay, I'm going to move to the next section, which is mostly about incentives, how we can save on EVs and also with EVs. Next slide. But before I talk about the total cost of ownership, I do want to address the current lay of the land in terms of EVs, which have already been mentioned. We just believe now is a very good time to get an EV. And if you want to lease one, we'd recommend doing so before the big, beautiful bill gets signed, before July 4th. The implementation of tariffs is causing a lot of uncertainty for auto manufacturers. It's already impacting pricing and inventory of new EVs, and we're already seeing this price increase trickle down to the used market. But yes, the federal tax credit for new and pre-owned EVs is currently available, but looks like it's going away this year. We're getting updates daily here this week, so that's good that we're getting updates, but the news is not so good, unfortunately. All right, now back to total cost of ownership. So early EV drivers often paid a high premium for EVs. But today's EV drivers often save money, and here are some reasons why. It costs much less to fuel an electric car. Fueling a gas car can be 2 to 5 times more expensive than fueling an EV, depending upon where and when you charge it. Electricity prices tend to be more stable than gas prices, as we've seen in the past years, but we've also seen electricity prices have gone up quite a bit as well. Maintenance costs are 40% lower for EVs, not for plug-in hybrids, but for EVs. It's basically adding windshield wiper fluid and rotating your tires. No oil changes or smog checks or anything like that. And then there are the incentives available, which can help bring down the initial cost of purchasing or leasing an EV. We've been seeing some great lease deals over the past few years, and unfortunately, we think those will be going away in the next month for many EV models. So there are, next slide. I'll dive into the incentives. So there are currently 4 types of incentives that can help residents save money when buying or leasing certain EVs. Some residents who qualify based on their income can stack incentives for up to $18,000 off a new or used EV. I've heard of some people getting used EVs almost for free because they've been able to stack these grants and rebates. The federal tax credit or the clean vehicle credit is available as a rebate at point of sale. You don't need tax liability for this rebate anymore. There are some requirements when purchasing or financing, including income and vehicle price caps. And there are 20 new EVs currently that qualify for a $7,500 tax rebate. I will share them on the next slide, but not quite yet. There's a pre-owned EV rebate for up to $4,000, 30% of the cost. And you may get the best deal when you lease an EV just because the commercial credit can be applied, as well as other manufacturer credits and rebates. There are no requirements when you lease an EV, and there are really some amazing incentives right now. Again, it looks like this credit is going away on most EVs within the next month. Then there are California state grants available for residents with lower incomes. There's the Drive Clean Assistance Program, which is available for $7,500. Clean Cars for All is a retire and replace incentives program for up to $10,000 in Marin County. You need to retire a 2009 or older gas car in working condition to qualify. This program is currently on a wait list, which is good news. They've, used up all the funding. They've given lots of grants out this year, but we are hearing from the Bay Area Air District that more funding is coming at the end of the summer. So depending upon where you live and who provides your electricity, there may be additional incentives through your utility, like the PG&E rebate for used EVs, up to $4,000, and other local grants through, not grants, rebates through your CCAs, like MCE and PCE talked about their rebate programs today a little earlier. And then the Ride and Drive Clean offers EV discount campaigns a few times a year. Our June campaign offers up to $18,500 off of leasing the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and really great pricing also for the Volkswagen ID4. These are exclusive discounts that you cannot get at a regular dealership. And as I mentioned, many of these incentives can be stacked. The savings calculator on this page is a great way to find out exactly which incentives you qualify for. Next. So these are there are several requirements for new EVs to qualify for the clean vehicle credit. They must be assembled in the US. There are income and MSRP caps, battery requirements. Here are all of the EVs that currently qualify for the tax credit for $7,500. Yeah, so just to give like a little update, it sounds like if what we're hearing from the Senate, from their updates to the big beautiful bill, these models should be available for 180 days or about 6 months from the point that the bill is signed. And it sounds like the lease rebate will be available for these models as well, but just for these models. It hasn't been finalized yet, and there might be changes still, so I don't want to say that, you know, it's final, but this is how it's looking at this point. Okay, next. Yeah, so this next portion of the webinar is mostly how to EV, a little charging. I know Philip did a lot, you know, talked a lot about charging, so I'll just do a brief overview. People do get worried about charging, but for most people, 80 to 90% of charging is done at home or at work. Charging at home is very easy. You just plug in the charger that comes with your EV into a standard 120-volt outlet. There are no install costs besides perhaps a heavy-duty extension cord, and it gives you 30 to 40 miles of charge in 8 hours. In the Bay Area, on average, people drive 25 miles a day, so this simple solution, level 1, works out great for most people. You can just replenish the electricity that you've used that day. But yeah, as Philip kind of said, most people don't believe it. Most people want to get level 2 chargers at home, but it really is enough for many people. You know, many people who have level 2 charging, they're only using their chargers for like an hour or two a day. So, but you know, it makes them feel like they can get a fast charge. Can you go back, please? Yeah. If you drive more than 40 miles a day, a good option is to see if you can charge at work. If not, you may want to purchase a home charging station for level 2 charging. So you can get 25 miles an hour and you can easily get a full charge, you know, in 8 hours if you are driving a lot. Charging away from home is easy too. There are also many level 2 public chargers available, so you can charge when you're around town running errands, but when you're on a road trip, you will want to fast charge with a level 3 charger, the fastest charging available. There are currently 3 standards for fast charging. CHAdeMO on the left is for Nissan Leafs, current Nissan Leafs, but this is going to be changing in the future. The one on the right is Tesla. The one in the center is CCS. So most current EVs on the road have the one in the middle, the CCS standard. But all EVs are moving to the North American charging standard this model year or next model year. I'll talk a little bit more about this on the next slide. Yes, in a few slides. Okay, next. So once you start driving electric, it's ideal to charge your EV from rooftop solar at home. There's a federal tax credit available. Currently, not sure how long that's going to last. Maybe through the end of the year for 30% of the cost. It's truly a great feeling to charge your EV from the electricity that you generate from your own roof. And for more resilience, you may want to consider battery for storage. If you're not ready for solar, our utilities and CCAs offer clean, affordable electricity options. So you pay less for electricity during certain times of the day, from midnight to 3 p.m., which is most of the time. We recommend that you charge your EV during peak solar hours, and if that's not available, after midnight, but maybe not just at midnight, because it seems like many people have been told, oh, charge at midnight. That's when the cheap charging takes place. But if everybody is charging at midnight, then it's not so clean, unfortunately. This next slide, I just have a little comparison on 2 time of use electricity plans. Next slide, please. Thanks. So the first is a special EV rate. You need to register your VIN to qualify for this one. And the other one is more moderate time of use rate. So it sort of depends on all of your electricity usage and if you can transfer most of your electricity usage to those off-peak times between midnight and 3 p.m. And you can charge your car during that time, it makes a lot of sense to have the EV rate, which is significantly more affordable during those times. All right, next. So most utilities and CCAs recommend that we charge during the day. Thanks. Because we have so much solar power on our grid, if we don't use it or store it when the sun goes down, it's gone. So this is a graph from CAISO. the nonprofit organization that operates the state's electricity grid. You can see on this typical November day, the grid has a ton of solar in the middle of the day. Charging when the sun is shining is a double win because you'll be drawing from the grid when renewable energy is most available, and cleaner charging at the cheapest price. So the next slide, just going to talk a little bit about some EV charging solutions for people who live in apartments and condos. There are many more solutions on their way. Philip did a good job of covering a couple of specific examples, like Orange Charger that he's using, that he's been using at some of his multifamily buildings down on the peninsula. So if a charging station is not available, people charge by plugging into a standard 120-volt outlet if that's available and allowed. People use smart outlets like Orange Charger. There are several others that are inexpensive solutions to charging that also handle billing. So you pay for what you use. People charge at work, which is really great because if you work during 9 to 5, there's a lot of clean energy available during that time. People charge at public fast chargers. Some manufacturers are offering special deals at point of sale, like free charging for 2 years, which makes it very affordable. On average, fast charging will get you about 70% battery range, battery charge in about 30 minutes. So a little bit more about using public charging stations on the next slide. Charging on a road trip. So taking a road trip is getting easier all the time. There are thousands of public charging sites that provide fast charging, and using apps like PlugShare and a better route planner, it's easy to plan a trip in advance and find chargers along the way. Though many new EV models now have navigation systems built into their cars, which makes it very easy to find chargers. Electrify America, EVgo, Tesla, ChargePoint are some of the most popular fast charge point operators in California. And the North American Charging Standard superchargers, or the NACS supercharging stations provided by Tesla, are gradually becoming available to all EV models and can be accessed with an adapter or directly with a native port. Some EVs, have that NACS port already in their 2025 model, like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. And more will be coming out in the 2026 model year, which will make it a breeze to charge at the Tesla supercharging stations. But I just wanted to point out that opening up the NACS supercharging network to all EVs is truly a game changer because it gives all EV drivers access to Tesla's vast, fast, and reliable supercharger network, eliminating one of the biggest barriers to EV adoption, public charging. I wanted to just briefly talk a little more about Ride and Drive Clean. We're here to help people switch to electric. We work throughout the Bay Area, down in San Jose, out in Pittsburgh, Vallejo. We do some work here in Marin County as well. Of course, this is where we started. We do a lot of work in underserved communities throughout the Bay Area. Please join us for some of our campaigns, our EV experts, our ongoing webinars. So yeah, we offer these EV savings campaigns on new and pre-owned EVs. We currently have one going on for new EVs. I mentioned the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Volkswagen ID4. Excellent lease pricing on these cars right now. We work with eMotion Autos, which is a pre-owned EV dealership, frequently throughout the year as well. We highly recommend working with them. We do EV and e-bike expos where people have an opportunity to talk to EV owners and view a variety of EVs and e-bikes all in one place. We've recently done them in San Anselmo and Novato. We have one coming up in Pinole this weekend. And we have ongoing webinars about EVs and e-bikes. We also have newsletters. Many of you are probably on our newsletters and are receiving updates on everything EV. Okay, so next slide. I'm just going to pop a couple of links in the chat right now, and I see there are a couple of questions. Here's our events page. You can stop sharing if you would like for the questions. This is our events page where you can sign up for webinars and in-person events. Our discount campaign on new EVs, if you're interested in getting one now before the lease deal goes away, we highly recommend it. And the savings calculator as well, so you can find out which incentives you qualify for. I see Jean's question, what is the cost to public non-Tesla drivers for charging at the NACS Tesla network? For the it's the same, but non-Tesla drivers are being charged the same as Tesla drivers. And I actually just read an article last night, somebody who has a Hyundai Ioniq 5, who typically uses Electrify America, but wanted to try out the Tesla supercharging station. And he said it's about the same cost between Electrify America and Tesla. Tesla does have time of use rates, so it's not always convenient, but sometimes I've seen they have rates that are like 20 cents a kilowatt hour at certain times. But often during the day when you're on a road trip, it's like 50 cents, about 50 or 55 cents a kilowatt hour. It's still cheaper than driving a gas car, but it's clearly not as cheap as charging at home. Kia Niro Wave version also has vehicle. Yes, for sure. Yeah, good to know. Yeah, does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah.
Bernie, want to talk to the owl? Only. One of the things that I think would be helpful would be to have listing the amount of battery deterioration in used EVs. We have range anxiety now with new EVs. It's probably a little exacerbated with used EVs. I remember running across a study, I think it was for Leafs, and the battery deterioration was only about 20%, which I thought was terrific.
Yeah.
And having that information might help people decide on a used EV.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I mentioned we work with Emotion Autos, and they have a special battery tester that they use that can determine, exactly what the battery range is on the used EVs. But yeah, we're seeing, in general, like 10 to 20% battery degradation after 8 to 10 years. That's standard. And so there's definitely a little bit of deterioration, but it's not really a game changer for daily driving. Really just you may have to stop a little more frequently if you're on a road trip. So yeah, we recommend that, you buy maybe not, you maybe buy a used EV that's 3 or 4 years old that still has the warranty. There's a warranty for 8 years or 150,000 miles in California. So, might be a good idea if you're nervous about that too, to get a not such a used EV. But yeah, it's also great. You can get all these different reports on on the state of the used EVs. But of course, it's not as easy as just getting a new EV where you know what you're getting, a brand new EV. If anybody's interested, I've purchased 3 used EVs, 2 from Emotion Autos, so I'm happy to talk to people individually at a different time. I know our time here is up.
Well, thanks so much for your presentation, Annika. That was very helpful. We're about done here. I think just a couple of last announcements. As indicated, Derek Johnson's going to talk at our July 16th COG meeting. We are not going to have a COG meeting in August. And I think that for our September meeting, we're going to have Jeff St. John of Canary Media who's going to be talking to us. So, any other announcements?
I think we're good.
Well, thanks, everybody.